Hi, welcome back to the channel today, everyone. So today I'm going to talk about a subject that I really don't like talking about. Probably my least favorite thing to ever really discuss. But last night I decided, fuck it, let's just go ahead and piss everybody off. So we're going to talk a little bit about abortion. But before I get started, make sure you click that like and subscribe button below. It really helps out. So seriously though, I don't like this topic. There's really strong opinions on both sides. Nothing changes and nobody wants to present real solutions. Um, but here it is back in the news cycle. So I want to address it and kind of tell you where I'm at on it. If you haven't heard, Texas passed what amounts to be a heartbeat bill. So abortion cannot be performed once a heartbeat is detectable by doctors. This can be as early as 6 weeks. An interesting area about this law is that it's not going to be the state that's going to be enforcing the law. It's showing what it does is it allows for private citizens to sue anyone who helps someone get an abortion after a heartbeat has been detected. So this is, again, it's really interesting because, and we'll talk about the legalities of it later and how that changes, according and how it makes it in accordance with the Constitution, right? And I've always wondered, how would this play out in like an anarchist, minarchist society? How who would stand up for the rights of the unborn or for even children for that matter when they can't speak up for themselves? I think that this kind of allows for people on the outside to kind of step in and help without a government system. In a monarchist system, as you know, I've talked about before, you would have court systems essentially set up to settle grievances between two parties. But you wouldn't have, a government that would be stepping in and taking place. And that's kind of what this law does. I do think we have to look at this law and see how it's written, right? Because there should be penalties for frivolous lawsuits, because essentially somebody with a lot of money could go and tie up a abortion clinic, Planned Parenthood or something like that in the court system until they run out of money. And that seems to be, that might be the goal of some of the situation, which I don't think that the court system should be used in a manner such as this to essentially shut down businesses if somebody has enough money to do so, which we've seen happen plenty of times in the past. It's exactly what the left is trying to do with the Masterpiece Cake shop in Colorado. They know that they're not going to win these lawsuits, but they continue to tie them up in court until they have to shut their doors. It's how, kind of the system works a little bit sometimes. Well, let's talk about the narrative that's actually surrounding this bill. Of course, you have people saying it goes against the Roe precedent, saying it completely bans abortions, which of course it doesn't. And of course, you have the people that say, well, where are you? This doesn't protect people who have been, victims of rape and stuff like that. And then you have this lady who proudly proclaims that she has had 21 abortions. I'm pretty sure no matter where you sit on the abortion spectrum, I don't think anybody really believes that abortion should be used as birth control, as this person seems to have done. But obviously there are some. And this whole pendulum thing, and how it always swings back. Well, when one side is preaching that we should be shouting our abortions, and be proud of abortions, of course, there's going to be a clear reaction to the other side to absolutely want to stop all abortions and make them so they are not just safe, legal and rare, right? Which is kind of the intent behind a lot of abortion laws. They should not be used for birth control, and this celebration of abortion is clearly not in line with safe, legal, and rare. But with this, it's very clear too that a lot of people don't understand the Roe v. Wade ruling. So let's talk about that for a second. First, it's not a law. Yes, I've seen some people claiming that it is. Laws that say you can't ban abortion have never been written. Roe v. Wade was actually ruled based on the 14th Amendment. The 14th Amendment ensures medical privacy, and the government doesn't have a right to know what medical procedures you have had. So think about that in terms of mandatory vaccinations, maybe. The government has no right to know if you've had a vaccination. They can only know raw numbers of how many people have had vaccinations. But Roe v. Wade actually protects your right from government from infringing upon, like using vaccine mandates and stuff like that from a state level. That's why they try to use it and push for businesses to enforce this stuff. So that's another topic for another time, but just think about how the 14th Amendment protects both areas, right? So what the Supreme Court also did in the Roe v. Wade ruling was it gave those states the right to determine when life begins. And this is important because Texas has now stated that that is when the fetus has a heartbeat, right? So once the fetus essentially is determined to be a life, it is no longer a 14th Amendment issue. It is a right to life issue, right? In the Constitution, it says we have the right to life, which is the very first one, liberty and the pursuit of happiness. So once you determine that it's life, that's when it gains its constitutional protections to life. And it is in the libertarian community a NAP violation, a non-aggression principle violation for killing it. Now, there's a lot of politicians and everything out there that are saying now we need to make a federal law, stating what abortion is and making it a federal issue. However, I hate to break it to those people, that wouldn't do anything. A federal law on abortion doesn't do anything, because if they create a federal law telling Texas that they can't regulate abortion like they have, Texas basically can pass that same law under the 10th Amendment, because then it becomes it's a states' right issue. This is where people don't understand the Constitution, and they don't understand like how the 10th Amendment actually works. So like just another example is marijuana laws. The reason why the Fed can't really do anything about states that have legalized marijuana is because there was never a constitutional amendment to ban drugs or marijuana. So it becomes a 10th Amendment issue where the Fed really has zero claim to what's going on in that state. The 10th Amendment essentially says what is not covered in the Constitution falls to the states to regulate. So that's exactly what the Supreme Court ruled in Roe v. Wade as well. And remember, when they banned alcohol, they had a constitutional amendment to ban alcohol, and then they actually had to amend the Constitution again to re-allow alcohol. See, that's the difference. If these people want to, amend the Constitution to make abortion a legal right, that is the only recourse that they have. But they don't want to. They want to go the easy route, and they want to make a law because they know that a federal, a constitutional amendment would not pass because of how many states you would need to ratify it, right? It's also interesting. Let me tell you that this is why I love this country. We are a 50-state experiment. People in California really have no business telling people in Texas what laws they can support. If women in Texas don't like this law, they can move to California, or they can vote differently and vote for people that hold their same values on this issue. And the Fed needs to stay out of that business. It's interesting because there's a lot of people that are moving from California to try to turn Texas blue, right? But now Texas has done this, and instead of staying in their safe space in California, they go to Texas and then don't like it when they get there. Again, this is what is beautiful about the US, is because we are 50 different states that have 50 different needs in those states and 50 different requirements for how people want, and 50 different value systems that are intertwined in those states. Again, it's all about voting, or you can move to somewhere that holds your same values. So if you don't like this law, you live in Texas, you can move out of Texas. It's as simple as that. So you've watched the video this far and you don't know where I stand. I will say it's complicated. I am very much pro-life. I think there are certain circumstances where we can talk about rape, incest, life of the mother, etc., stuff like that. Now, I agree with Sour Patch Lids, who is the producer of Tim Pool's podcast. She said, it is definitionally the mother's responsibility for pregnancy. And yes, we will ignore incest and rape for this conversation. The numbers of abortions for those situations are negligible, and people who exist because of rape deserve to exist too, even if they are adopted out. Though, and I even responded to this, and I think it's a thing, is that I think, especially in cases of rape, I think every rape kit should have Plan B pills as well. I mean, 6 weeks is quite a long time after such an awful incident to go to a doctor and verify that you are not pregnant. I think that this doesn't take away a victim's rights to not have a child that with somebody who obviously they were never planning on having a child with in the first place. Now, my friend Chrissy Mayer, who, as you know, I interviewed on this channel a couple weeks ago, you can go back. She made waves with this statement. If women pick sex partners as if they were picking the father of their children, we'd be picking better men. Men who weren't chosen would be encouraged to elevate themselves. Abortions allow women to waste their precious time on lesser men. This is a feminist idea, by the way. Now, the comments on this were actually quite interesting. All the people saying, women like to have sex too, it's not right. Basically bashing Chrissy for almost, thinking that she has these really traditional values of women and women's sex lives, when obviously they don't know Chrissy's body of work, all the porn stars that she's friends with. And obviously, if you go back to the video that we talked about, setting up the post-pandemic orgy as a joke. But that's kind of, she's a comedian, and that is really her body of work. Like I said, she is very involved in knows a lot of people in the sex worker industry. I mean, so to say that she's this prude or something like that, it's just it's ironic to see some of these comments on there, but that's Twitter. And then we have some of the leftist posts. So Bette Midler, she wrote, I suggest that all women refuse to have sex with men until they are guaranteed the right to choose by Congress. Like, yeah, it's kind of the idea. I mean, abstinence is a pretty darn good way to not get pregnant, right? Though there have been a lot of worse takes than this one. Though I think the worst of takes, and no, not the ones saying that Taliban treat women better than the US. Yeah, that happened. But it's the one that admits that they like eugenics. As Richard said, you can't screen for Down syndrome before 10 weeks, and something like 80% of Down syndrome fetuses are aborted. If red states ban abortion, we could see a world where we have 5 times as many children with Down syndrome and similar numbers for other disabilities. Could be outliers in the whole developed world. There are already negative stereotypes of Americans in these states. One can imagine it getting much more extreme if they also ban genetic engineering and embryo selection while other places go ahead. So If you ever wonder why they quit looking into and really haven't looked, haven't had any desire to look into the gay gene or the trans gene, it's because of people like this who think it's okay to kill undesirables in the womb. Margaret Sanger would be so proud because if you remember, she established Planned Parenthood and put them mostly in minority neighborhoods to create a legal Black genocide. And even Roe from the landmark case changed her position, became a staunch anti-abortion activist. But that's the situation on abortion. Now, this is the point where I piss off a bunch of social conservatives now, right? I have long stated that though I am pro-life, that we can never ban abortion in today's world. I'm not naive enough to think that it wouldn't go underground just like everything else that we ban. I have often wondered how an society would settle a grievance of the child if the state is not there to protect their rights in life. I think the Texas bill, actually, like I said before, kind of shows that. I have also stated that social conservatives have to get really cool about LGBT adoptions real quick in order to deal with the influx of babies, as well as relax adoption laws on single parents to adopt and make it much more affordable and easier access to adopt children. It's very, very difficult to adopt children in today's society. It's a very long process, and we saw the social conservatives kind of show their hand this weekend while fawning over the Texas bill. Pete Buttigieg and his husband showed pictures of their babies being born this weekend, and of course, social conservatives were disgusted. And I mean, there were some people that were questioning why they had special privileges to be in the hospital, though I'm not aware of that many places that aren't allowing fathers of children to be in the hospital. Like when a woman has a baby right now, the father of the child is usually in the room, I think. I don't think COVID has taken that away from them right now. So I don't see this as special privilege, but I don't know. Somebody can correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. But this is a clear case of someone not being able to see the impacts of their values. Many seem to think it's better for these kids to be wards of the state than in loving homes such as Pete Buttigieg. And we know that these homes tend to be pretty normal households, like with the same issues that everybody else's families have. And remember, you can't make someone gay. And the rate of gay children that are living in homes with gay parents is about the same as the general population. So again, there's not like this gay gene that gets passed on, even if you do, like in vitro fertilization, which as they may have done, I'm not 100% positive on their situation, but I am sure that like Dave Rubin, who has been very open about him and his husband going through surrogacy. And on the topic of Dave Rubin, it's really interesting because a lot of these people speaking out against Pete Buttigieg are friends with Dave Rubin. So when Dave Rubin and his husband have a child, are they going to have the same energy? Are they going to still be so highly against a gay couple adopting children? Or are they going to just ignore in society and let their friend live as they see fit and raise a very well maintained family, right? I just see a lot of hypocrisy on this issue, and when I say that a lot of people don't actually want solutions, this is what I'm talking about. If we ban abortion, there's going to be an influx of children. How do we deal with this influx of children? How do we deal with these situations? This is why I'm in favor of like heartbeat bills and stuff like that, because as much as I am pro-life and I believe that it is killing an innocent human life that has the right to life, again, I'm not naive enough to think that we can just get rid of abortion and there wouldn't be any consequences. But anyway, that's my show. Please leave a comment below. Make sure you click and subscribe. Click on that like button, click subscribe, and I will see you next time.